Continuing our breaking news, President Trump announced on Truth Social that he will suspend bombing in Iran for 2 weeks.
Donald Trump posted on Truth Social, quote, effective immediately, the United States Navy, the finest in the world, will begin the process of blockading any and all ships trying to enter or leave the Strait of Hormuz.
Historic high-stakes negotiations between the U.S. and Tehran begin in Pakistan with the goal of ending the conflict.
The ceasefire has a catch and nobody's talking about it. A ceasefire was announced between the U.S. and Iran. The Strait of Hormuz was supposed to reopen. Oil was supposed to flow again. Then, over the weekend, Trump closed the strait. Peace talks appeared to break down. We were ready for a meltdown in the markets. But here's where it gets interesting. Today, oil dropped. Markets rose, Bitcoin pumped, and Iran is back on the phone saying they want to continue talks. So what's actually happening? And what does it mean for your mortgage rate? There's a catch to this ceasefire that nobody's talking about. Actually, there are two catches. Let me break it down. If you're new here, I'm Greg Williamson. I have over 30 years in the mortgage business, and this channel exists because I believe mortgages should be managed like investment portfolios are managed, not guessed. Every week, I cut through the noise and give you a clear strategy, not a hedge, an actual call. And this week, the news is moving fast. So let's make some sense of it. Here's where we are. A ceasefire was announced. No more bombing. That part is still true. Nobody's shooting. But the Strait of Hormuz, that's been a roller coaster. First, it was reopening. Then over the weekend, Trump closed it again. Peace talks looked like they were falling apart. And then today, oil dropped, markets rose, and Iran called Washington saying they want to continue negotiations. This is the pattern we're going to see for a while. 2 steps forward, 1 step back, headlines that whipsaw, uncertainty that doesn't fully resolve. But here's what matters. The direction of travel is towards a resolution, not an escalation. Both sides have reason to want this thing to be over. Iran's leverage is decaying. We talked about that last week, and Trump has his own pressures. Blockading the strait will bring Iran to the table faster than a kids' hockey team at an all-you-can-eat pizza buffet. While the day-to-day is volatile, the underlying trend is towards stabilization. Now, here's the catch that nobody's talking about. Iran is attempting to set up a toll on the Strait of Hormuz. Every tanker that passes through would pay $1 per barrel. A large crude carrier holding 2 million barrels, well, that's $2 million per transit. Iran's National Security Committee has already passed legislation into law for this. And at least 2 vessels reportedly have paid, in yuan, not dollars, before this weekend's drama took hold. But here's the question. Will Trump let this stand? On one hand, the toll gives Iran revenue, and Trump's whole strategy has been maximum pressure, no oil money for Iran. But on the other hand, there's a bigger precedent problem. If Iran can charge tolls on international waters, what stops other countries from doing the same? And the US has always historically opposed that. And then there's the dollar angle. Iran wants payment in yuan or Bitcoin, not dollars. That's a direct challenge to America's financial power and the petrodollar. So the toll may survive, or Trump may block it entirely, or he may demand the money flows to the US for policing the strait. We don't know yet. What we do know is this. The strait situation isn't fully resolved. The ceasefire is holding, nobody's shooting, but the economic terms are still being fought over, and that's still uncertain. It's part of why yields remain elevated and mortgage rates haven't dropped as much as you might expect. The ceasefire, fragile as it is good news for oil prices. We proved that today. But the dollar story beneath it, that's a long-term pressure on yields. Now, let's talk about what happened here at home. In Canada, Friday's job report came out, and it tells us everything we need to know about where the Canadian economy actually is. The headline looked fine, 14,000 jobs added in March, but let's put that into context. We lost 109,000 jobs in January and February combined. This isn't a recovery. This is a Band-Aid. The unemployment rate held at 6.7, which sounds stable, right? But here's what the headlines don't tell you. Shocker. Full-time employment among working-age adults, the people mortgage lenders actually underwrite, that went up by just 10,000 people. In a country of 40 million people, that rounds to nothing. David Rosenberg, a noted economist, pointed out that full-time employment has actually declined by 40,000 over the past 6 months. Meanwhile, part-time work surged by 80,000. That's a quality of employment deterioration that the headlines always completely miss. Adding to that, Scotiabank's Derek Holt, also a great economist, didn't mince words. He called the unemployment rate fiction because the labor force survey lags the actual decline that we've seen in population. And yet, the OIS market is still pricing in 1.4 Bank of Canada hikes by year end. Despite really bad job data, some traders are still betting on rate hikes. I think that's laughable. And frankly, it's sad because this is the stuff the media picks up and people read. So they take a fixed rate that has risen 75 basis points in the last month for their mortgage renewal today. And then in 6 months or so, when everything settles, those fixed rates fall right back down well over a point or more. And all the while, the Bank of Canada did no hikes. Just look at the actual economy. This is not an economy that can handle rate hikes. This is an economy with slack. And an economy with slack can absorb higher energy costs, especially when they're temporary, without them fully passing through to inflation. So the Bank of Canada knows this, and that's why they're sitting on their hands. Now, here's what I want you to take away from this. Variable rate mortgages are back in the conversation. I'm not changing my call yet for new mortgage seekers. A fixed rate with our penalty protection is still the play in that situation. There's just still too much uncertainty. However, the ceasefire could break down again, oil could spike, the dollar situation is unresolved, but the upside case for variable, that just got stronger. If the oil situation continues to stabilize, if yields start to settle and drop, and if the labor market stays this weak, the Bank of Canada's next move will be down, not up. Maybe not this next one, but certainly this year. And variable wins in that scenario. Even if it holds, it wins. So let's put this together. Last week, I told you the oil crisis was solving itself. Today's price action confirms that the thesis is still playing out, despite the weekend noise. Oil is in fact stabilizing, not cheap, but no longer in crisis mode. And at the same time, the Canadian labor market is weak. Not collapsing, but not strong enough to justify rate hikes, not even close. What does this mean for central banks? They get what they want, which is an excuse to do nothing. Powell already said the Fed wants to look through the oil shock. The Bank of Canada is in the same position, trapped between weak growth and inflation concerns. If oil stays stable and the economy stays soft, both central banks can pause. No hikes, maybe cuts later this year. Yields can drift back down, not collapse, but settle. And if that happens, your positioning matters. So let me give you the call based on where you are. If you're searching for a new mortgage right now, buying a house, got a mortgage up for renewal, the call is still a fixed with penalty protection. Why? Because the spread between fixed and variable is still somewhat narrow. Up to now around 55 to 60 basis points, but historically we don't go all in on variable or even consider until that spread hits 0.75%. And with our penalty protection program on a fixed rate mortgage, you get an escape hatch if rates drop. You're not locked in forever at this low rate if rates come back down. You're protected now with optionality for later. If you already have a fixed mortgage that's over 5% right now, you should seriously consider a relock. We have a unique program where we cover your penalty. So you can now get out of that high rate right now, potentially for zero out of pocket, and trade it for a rate in the mid to low fours. Think about that. You're sitting at 5 point something, watching rates settle, feeling stuck because your penalty is $8,000, $10,000, $12,000, but you're not stuck. We can get you out and into a better position today. If that's you, book a call. The link is in the pinned comment below or in the description. This is exactly what our penalty protection program was built for. If you already have a variable rate mortgage right now, you hold. there's no pressure for variable rates to go up. The jobs data we just talked about, the labor market is too weak for the Bank of Canada hike. The OIS market pricing in 1, 4, and 4 hikes per year end, that's just pure fiction. And fixed rates are still too high to justify locking in right now. We need to see fixed rates settle back down before that makes sense for you in a variable rate mortgage. So stay in that variable. You're positioned for the upside if the Bank of Canada cuts later this year. If you're coming up for renewal right now, this is when it gets really interesting. If your current rate is high, over 5%, you might not need to wait for renewal. We can relock you right now with penalty coverage. However, if your current rate is reasonable and you're renewing in the next 3, 4, 5, 6 months, we'll look at the data together and decide whether fixed with an escape hatch or variable makes more sense for your situation now. But bottom line, that's what managed mortgages look like. It's not a one-size-fits-all people. It's positioning you based on where you are and what the market is telling us right now. Now, let me remind you how our penalty protection program works for you on a new mortgage because it matters. If rates drop, you take a rate today on a new mortgage at say 4.65%, and rates drop and you want to relock, we split that penalty with you 50-50 on anything up to $5,000. If the penalty is over $5,000, you're capped at $5,000 and we cover the rest. And for those of you stuck in high fixed rates right now, we can often structure the relock so you pay nothing out of pocket. The savings from your lower rate cover the cost. At a bank, you'd pay the full penalty yourself and probably never even know this was an option. That's the difference between shopping for a rate today and managing your mortgage for the term. Now, here's the bottom line. The ceasefire is fragile, but holding. The direction is toward resolution, stability. Today's market action confirmed that, and the Canadian labor market is weak. The Bank of Canada is boxed in, so if you're in a variable, hold. If you're stuck in a high fixed rate, let's talk about getting you out of it. If you're searching for a new mortgage today, fixed with a penalty relock protection is the play. So click the link in the description or pin comment to book a call. See you next week.